Alright, guys, welcome to day three. Guha, you have the floor.
Okay. Hey guys, good morning all. So yeah, last time we had few difficulties in demoing certain things like sharing rules and since profiles and permissions are a little important in terms of examination and also in terms of admin. So we'll go over the sharing rules first. I'll show you a demo on like how it works in the real time, and I will be showing you the difference between a profile and permission sets, where to use profile and where to use permission sets.
Mhm.
All right, so I have created a new Scratch org. So let me jump into the sharing rules directly. So usually you'll find the sharing rules under the sharing settings, where as I told you last week, you will find the base layer of security, that is the organization-wide defaults, where you will set a particular access in your organization for each object. So as a best practice, we were discussing that let's keep it as private and mount any other access permissions through a sharing rule.
Mhm.
Why we want to keep it private? Because we need to enclose all the openings for the data in your organization and keep it only to the ownerships, right? So when it comes to a real-time enterprise level projects, you don't want other users or other team to access your data. So that's very important in implementing a project rather than doing all the fancy UI stuff. That's on the UI level, but it's always to have a strong base security model rather than doing much more on the fancy side. So as we saw, organization-wide default is the place we will go and set the parameters. So for now, I'm taking the contact object. So I have set it to private here. So which means the contacts which I have created in the system, only those contacts will be visible to me. And if there is any other user and he is creating a contact, that will not be visible to me, and the vice versa. My contacts will not be visible to him. So let's see that. And I have created a contact sharing rule which says, similar to what I explained last time, if the name starts with T, so that's going to be shared to me. Sorry, that's going to be shared uh, to a role called Western Sales Team. So if you see here, the conditions are the first name starts with T, and I give read and write permission to whom the team of people with role Western Sales Service. So this is like a built-in role which was already there in the org. So I'm just picking up one, and let's see what happens. So I'll go to the contact here. So since I am the system admin, so I can see all the contacts in here. And if you see the contacts, I can see the record with T-Mobile last name. So I can go ahead and I can do a edit on this particular record. But if so, let me do this. So okay. So I have also a contact called Google Contact, and that is also created by the system admin. And so that will be accessible to me for editing. But as per the organization-wide default, we have set it as private. So since I am the ownership, if you see here, I am the contact owner. So that's accessible to me, but it should not be accessible to any other user in the system. But the T-Mobile, that should be accessible to any other user under that particular role, the Western Sales role. So let's log in into the other user and see how it is behaving for the other user. So I'm going to log in as the test user, and I'm going to refresh this. So if you see here, if you go to all contacts, I can see only the T-Mobile last name. I'm logged in as a test user here, and I can see only the T-Mobile last name, and I have kept the mode to all contacts. So I should be ideally seeing all the contacts, but it is showing me only three contacts, which is not created by the which is created by the other system admin user, but starts with T. So if you had remember in the previous like a minute ago when I showed the previous screen on the system admin mode, it was showing up like 20 contacts, and now it shows only three contacts, and that too every contact starts with T. So that's the sharing rule. So now if I remove that word T in the sharing rule, even this contacts will not be coming up on the UI. And if you had seen, there was contacts with starting with the G, so that's like Guha contact. So that is disappearing here. And if I click on this T-Mobile contact, even though it is under the contact ownership of system admin, I can still edit this contact. So this is how sharing rule will give access to a specific group of people apart from the ownership of the record, even when you set it to private. And there are many combinations. You can set it to public read only and give write access to a group of people. So it all depends on the requirement. So this is like a more restricted format, and you give an additional access to a group of people based on certain data in your fields. So it need not be a name field, it could be any field in the contact object. So that's the whole crux of the sharing rules. Let me log out. Okay, so that's sharing role. So let's go back to the comparison of profiles and permission sets. So I'm repeating this for profiles and permission sets again in this video because this is more important in terms of admin exam. There could be many scenario-based questions where to use profile, where to use permission sets. So you must be doing the best judgment in the exam whether for that particular scenario, whether to go with profiles or to go with permission sets. How do you leverage the permissions? Or they could be describing a particular error scenario, like hey, I have a group of people, they couldn't access certain things in the org, and how do I, as an administrator, how do I leverage the users to see all those data? So at that point of time, you have to carefully read all the parameters in the question and see what is actually happening. So first you need to identify the problem there. So that would be like a profile would be having access to particular object, and for certain reasons, the other particular custom object or anything that would not be having a write or read access on the object level in the profile.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, if you want to give an additional access to that particular object, that would be answers like you can directly go to profile and give permissions, or you can create a custom permission set to give access to it. So the ideal best choice would be to give a permission set, create a permission set and give access through permission set. Why? Because it's like when you have a organization already set up and you have applications running in the system, and you just come up with a scenario that one particular group of people are not able to use it. So that's like you are going to touch something in the production, and you don't want to mess up things by setting up everything in the profiles, because it will profile, as I told you, profile is like organization wide, and
Right.
it affects all the users under that profile.
Yeah.
The profile is like a bigger umbrella, and it's the permission set, it sits on top of it like a handle for the umbrella. So you just need to give in all the permissions through permission sets so that other group of the whole base user base is not affected. So that would be the one typical example in an exam. I'm not promising this exam question would be coming up, but I'm telling you this is how the exam questions would be, and you need to make a best judgment at that point of while you take the exam. So profiles is like to recap. So profiles is the base layer of permissions that you will give for the objects in the system, and also not only for objects, you will give access to anything in the system based on the group of users, what they do, what their activity in the system. So for example, let me take up a profile for standard user. Okay, so so I just don't mind about what I was doing now. I was just changing the view of this profile layout. So you can either use this layout or you can just keep it however it comes up on the layout. I just got used to this layout. So if you see this profile, you would be seeing this object settings. So this is where you will define the permissions for the objects. And if you go inside the object settings, you would see all the objects, including standard and custom objects listed in this list. So what you would do is you would choose one particular object. So for example, let's say we choose contact. So under the contact, you would see if whether the tab should be enabled or not. And next, you would see the record types that should be enabled for this permissions. Sorry, for the profile. And you would see the object level permissions where you will give the this is like giving access to the whole object itself, like the edit access on the object level. And if there could be scenarios where you will give only read and edit permissions in the object and remove the create permissions for the user. And you can give read or edit access to certain particular fields, so that you don't have to do validation check, custom validation check on the UI for the users to prevent them from editing certain things. You can do it on the profile level. So this is like this can be done. This same layout will be the one in the permission sets. But if you want to give the whole permissions from the base level, say when I'm freshly setting up a org, and when you're setting up your whole application, and you decided that this whole set of users is all standard users will not have access to contact at all. So you can probably remove all this here. And going down the lane, say after 6 months of time, there would be some requirement coming up like, hey, I want just particular group of people to access the contact. So that's where you will decide to go with permission sets, because your whole organization users becomes the standard user with a profile, and you don't want to give the contact access to the whole users. So you just want to give access only for 10 users. So what you would do is you would create a permission set and add those users into the permission set, and give only create or read access, whatever it is, to that particular permission set. So what happens is, let me show you with the user what happens here. So what you would do is you would go to the user, to whomever you want to give the additional permission. So you would see the profile would have been set to standard user here. So you need to give a permission set. So you will go down to the permission set assignment here. So click on edit permissions. And so I don't have any permission. So let's assume that this is a custom permission we have created. So I will move it to the enable permissions side, and you just click on save. So now what happens now is you have a profile that has a base model, and on top of it, you are giving certain certain references or certain additional permissions to that particular object. For example, if this particular permission set have edit and read access on the contact, so which will cover you like first the contacts with no access will be applied, and on top of it, this access, extra access will be applied. And that could be a question whether you can cut down the access from the permission sets. So that answer would be no. This could be repeated in your exam, like if there is a requirement where I have to restrict a user from accessing any of the object, and there would be an option like use permission sets. No, that's the wrong answer actually. You cannot restrict any user with a permission set. You can only give additional access on top of profile with the permission sets. You cannot cut down the access which is already provided in the profiles. So if you have to restrict a user, you have to either do it in profiles, and if you had already given in permission sets, you have to cut down there as well. And if you had given any organization-wide default, so that would be on the data side. But in terms of editing the object, editing the fields in the particular object, so that would be done in only profiles and permission sets. And restricting always first happens in the profile. And if you had a permission set and that permission set had access in the contact with edit, then you have to cut down there as well. So you'll just go there and then do uncheck on the edit permission, and you're all set for restricting that user. So that's how the whole thing works. And yeah, so Gavin, do you want to get started with the workflows and process builders?
Certainly, I had myself muted. So let me take back control of the screen.
Mm.
All right, guys. So there are a few types of workflow rules. This is a example worksheet that I have for you. You can also access it. I'm just gonna post it in here for everyone. You may also follow along. So a workflow rule is very useful when in a business. For example, if you wanna for example follow up before a contract expires with a customer, saying, "Hey, your contract is coming up. How can we? What do you think about our service? How can we improve? How can we? Um, are you gonna renew the contract?" So you can schedule this well in advance, so you don't let anything slip through the cracks. Another kind of workflow rule is to notify somebody internally or externally in Salesforce. You can set workflow rules for notifying key people when account ownership changes. And I'm going to get to specific examples within Salesforce, but I wanted you to see that you can send alerts. Those alerts can be set for specific criteria. You can configure immediate actions. Like you can, Guha is going to go over email templates that you can use to notify people. And let me see. Here we have you can assign credit check for a new customer. Another really good resource for how to use workflow rules is the forum Automation Champion. It is a forum by I forget his name, Rakesh Gupta. I frequent this forum on a regular basis for new automation techniques without. He has so many options before using code. So here you have visual workflow, which is not something that we would cover because this is part of the app builder certification. But if you're interested in learning visual workflow, this is definitely a good forum to be on. Process builder also, he has plenty of um, process builder examples, and he goes through them like step by step on how to configure them in your organization, launch a flow, etc. So let's get back to what really counts, which is the exam, right? All right. So let's do a sample workflow. Let's do a workflow for when an opportunity is greater than $100,000. All right. So in in Lightning, you can go into the setup and go into workflow rules. So this is a criteria based workflow. You can create a workflow rule by hitting new rule, and now you have to select the object, right? So we're going to build this workflow rule on the opportunity object. So I would go down to opportunity, hit next. I'm going to call this deal greater than 100K. So this is something that's very important. So you can have this workflow rule evaluate this criteria only when the record is created or anytime it's edited to meet this criteria of greater than 100K, or created anytime it's edited to subsequently meet the criteria. So at some point, if this opportunity in the future happens to hit 100K because they added a bunch of products to the opportunity, and now it went from 90K to 100K, then it would still activate the workflow rule. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep.
Yeah, feel free to interrupt me if none of this is if it's too high level. I can get into examples. So that's one of the three of the options here. There's also formula evaluates to be true. So now if you want to get really specific, you can, instead of using the criteria, you can go in here and you can actually create a formula. You can say if the opportunity begins with a certain number, or if um, or you have all these other formula functions here, and you can have if then else logic into your opportunity criteria. You can have includes, is changed, is new. So for example, you only do this for new customers, right? um, is pick val. So in the opportunity object, if you have a pick list value, for example, when I was working for the Washington Wizards and the Capitals, our company owned both of them. Monumental Sports owned the Washington Wizards and the Washington Capitals. So depending on what team we selected for the opportunity, like the percentages were different for salespeople. So we use the ispicval function there to sort out which team, which commission percentage are we going to pay depending on the team they selected. So that's another way um, you can use formulas to filter out your opportunity criteria. But let's go back to let's not do formulas for now. Let's go back to the when criteria is met, and let's say the opportunity amount. Here you go. Opportunity amount is greater than 100,000. We hit save and next. So this is standard workflow, the standard workflow screen. Here we see the rule criteria. Now we can add workflow actions. Gua, is this something that you want me to continue doing, or would you like to chime
Yeah,
in?
please go ahead.
All right, so
Yeah, for the email alert, I would take it up.
okay,
You can explain the other things like field update and outbound messages.
certainly, certainly. So you can so now when opportunity is over 100,000, you definitely want to inform your boss. You want to inform your boss that, hey, this is over my pay grade. I just want to let you know that I'm working on a big customer. So you say new task and you assign it to your boss, CEO, and alert on big deal. So Salesforce already has a feature called big deal alerts. Um, we'll get back to that uh, in another lesson. But right now we're not going to do big deal alerts. We're going to just send this opportunity, this task to your boss. So you can set a due date. So this wasn't there. This is something, I think this is something new. Now you can set the due date to any of these out of the box standard Salesforce dates. So I'm gonna set the due date to the opportunity close date. So you can set it to plus or minus. So I'm gonna say, hey, make sure the boss knows about this at least 7 days before. Put it on waiting on someone else. So waiting on his approval and make it high. All right. And then Guha, do you know what protect a component means?
Sorry, I was talking in mute. So, yeah, I think the protected component, it's about, I need to double check on that. I have some assumptions, but I don't want to give a, wrong idea
Right.
here. So, probably I'll get back on that topic.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I've seen that before. I didn't know what it is, so I never checked it. So I leave it blank. Let's hit save.
Yeah, this is something new in the recent release. This was not there in the previous setup already.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So we created that task. Let's go back to that opportunity that we just created. Big deal. Deals greater than 100K. So we have a task going to your supervisor. So let's edit this opportunity further. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to edit the opportunity. Let's edit the actions on the opportunity further. And so here you can add more workflow actions. So you can, Gua is going to cover the email alert. Let me show you what a field update is. So now that an
Yeah,
op-
sorry to interrupt, Gavin. You finish up the field update, outbound message, and other actions. And when you come to the email alert, you keep the screen on, and I'll do the talking. You can do the demo there
Sure, sure.
because you already created a workflow. Let's continue with that flow.
Yes. Okay. All right. So a field update is so now that you have an opportunity that has reached a certain criteria, you can trigger this field to update. For example, you can set a status field on your opportunity from pending from open to pending. So um, let's go ahead and do that as an example, so you can get a better idea of what it is. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna say change opportunity status. And on the opportunity, you have the stage, and now you can change this to a specific value here. You can change it to, so it was it's still, you can change it to prospecting. Depending on your organization, if you want to customize this to your organization's language, you can customize that under the, you can go into the opportunity object and go into stage and customize these stages as well. So let's select prospecting and hit save. So now we have a field update with the task. Next, I'm gonna introduce you to a new concept called an outbound message. So this is a developer concept, right? So here you can send an outbound message. It's more like an external call to a system outside of Salesforce. And Gua, feel free to add more depth to that, because I don't have any examples of me using it on a job, because usually our
Sure.
developers would do this in code. So
Right.
go ahead, Gua.
So can you click on new outbound message? So let me give a quick um, overview on it. So we cannot demo it right away because we need proper web service endpoint for it. So basically, this outbound messages, what it does is it's like a web service integration part in your configuration. So you would define, you would be right as a developer, you would be writing a web service, and that web service would be for a different system outside Salesforce ecosystem. Say we want to interact, we want to send the message to a Oracle system on the execution of this workflow. Let's assume a workflow after it reaches 100K, it has to send a success message or the opportunity one message to external system, say it's in Oracle. And that's where we will bring in an endpoint URL. If you see here, there's a field called endpoint URL, and that would be like a URL for a particular function in that, but in that external system. Say I want to save a message which is coming into the Oracle system. So they would expose a particular function in their web service, and that function address point will be represented as a URL. So imagine you have a house and you have your own address. And how do I reach to that address? You will give me the mailing address or whatever the address, postal address it is. And postal address is like a 4-line postal address. And I would check it in Google Map or whatever it is, the medium. I can check the address and reach to your house door anytime, right? So it's the endpoint URL is like any URL you see in the practical world. Any URL is just a address to a particular method inside a function, I mean, inside a system. It could be Facebook URL, it could be Salesforce URL, it could be even your go-to-meeting URL. So any URL in the practical world is just a call. In terms of program, in terms of program, it's just a web service program they have written, and you are going and hitting the door of that particular program in that system. So that's what it is happening. To practically understand, that's what it is happening. And we just call it as URL for as a general audience. But if you are a programmer, you would better understand like what the URL really means. So that's how we have, if we have Oracle system and we will expose a URL to the customer. Hey, anytime you want to send a message to us, just use this URL. So that URL will go in here. So whenever I close a deal for like 100K, I want to send a success message to that system. So that's where you will build the outbound message service. So this will send the parameters like if you come down, the opportunity fields to send. So that's where the parameters you will send, where you would say, hey, this is the opportunity number, this is the account ID, this is a contact for this opportunity, and these are all the inputs, and you would say, hey, this opportunity has won. The description would say this opportunity has won 100K, and all these messages will bundle up into an internal envelope and will be sent to that endpoint URL. So the endpoint URL, what it will do, it will pass on this message to that door, and the Oracle system, they will have another mechanism to receive the messages. So let's not get into that details. That's not a Salesforce system at all.
Right.
So they will have their own mechanism to receive the messages. We are just sending the post to them,
Mhm.
and they will receive it whatever method they want to do it. So
Got
that's the outbound messages, and mostly the admin concepts concentrates only on setting up the endpoint URL and sending the needed parameters. As admin, you don't have to know about what is this endpoint URL and what is how it is working. You don't have to know about all these topics.
Yeah, but
Yeah, we will.
there is a question
Mhm.
that says, what can standard workflow rules do that process builder can't do, and that is sending the outbound messages. Standard workflow rules can send outbound messages. Uh, Process builder, it can call an Apex class, but it can't send outbound messages. Am I correct,
Exactly.
Gua?
That's really an important point which I wanted to bring up. Thanks for bringing up that. Yeah, so that there could be multiple scenarios where in the exam where they will ask which is the best approach, whether to go with workflows or to go with process builders. And always read the question, understand the question, and if you feel workflow can do that, don't rush into the solution. Check if process builder can do it. If process builder can do it, mark the option as process builder, because I'll tell you why. Even though workflow can do it, Salesforce always emphasis on process builder because that's lightning ready, and process builder, they are projecting process builder as the future of any automation workflows. So there was rumor that they are going to replace workflow with process builders, but I don't think they're going to do that anytime soon. So still workflows will stick to it, but workflows will come into places where like you cannot do something with process builder, only then you will consider workflow. If you can do with work process builder, just go with that option in the exam. So there could be many questions which will have process builder as an option. So always be careful with those questions. Read the question, see if process builder can really do it. Mark it as process builder. Even though workflow can be advantageous on that, if process builder can do it, please go with that. If
Mhm.
it is not possible with the process builder at all, that's where workflow will be the right answer.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, this is a little bit a debatable topic in terms of exam questions, because many people will say, hey, why can't we go with process? Why can't we go with workflows? Why I have to choose a process builder? And there is no like best solution for that question. So process builder executes at the last, and workflow comes in the front in the terms in the order of execution. If you compare everything, if you debate around the topic, everyone will say workflow doesn't make sense, doesn't make any difference. You can go with workflows and also process builder. There is no best choice among that, but
Mhm.
still stick with process builders because that's how the answers are designed in the exam. They always wanted to emphasize process builders instead of workflows.
That's a good point. And the next
Yep.
item is the email alert. So let's do an example. Gu is going to guide me through this example. So right now we don't have a template created, but
So yeah, Gavin. So let's do this one. So before moving into the email alert, open up another setup on your next tab. Uh, so while you do that, open up and go to the email templates. So I'll give an overview on what it is. So in terms of email alerts, it's just a email message you are going to send to a particular person or a group of people that hey, this opportunity has crossed 100K. So what do you want to do? So that message can be custom. It can be like hey, happy holiday also for that particular operation. But it's all custom built email template that you will be sending out. It's just a email body of the email you will compose, and you will envelop that whole email into an email alert. So that's where email alert comes in. So there are two components for the email alert. So email alert cannot exist independently without an email template. An email template can exist without an email alert, but it needs an email alert to be sent over outside the Salesforce system. So if the email alert can just dormantly stay in this inside the system without an email alert, but if you want to associate that to a email sending function, then that's where the email alert has to be there for an email template. So email template is basically you're composing an email like a template, like you have a standard template, and you say that for any business operations of this kind, it has to use this template, and then it has to fire the email. So if you see in the email template, there are like four types of email templates. That's text, HTML, custom, and Visual Force. So text is basically you can do only text. It's like normal text box in your Salesforce objects, what you see. And the HTML one is like you can include images, you can include hyperlinks, you can do basically you can send a web page type of content. And the custom template is like you write the whole code. You can decide whether it has to be only purely text, or you can decide whether it has to be only HTML based. That's how you will custom build it. And the last one is like Visual Force, where you can design a complete Visual Force page for that template. Say you can build a form inside an email. So that's how basically. So you would have seen certain marketing emails where you click on the link and you're not taken outside the email at all. You just click on the link and it opens up inside the form and opens inside your email itself. And then you can start typing things and then click on submit. Everything happens out just inside your email body. It doesn't go outside. Your control doesn't go outside email, the email thing, and you're not navigated to any other new tab or something like that.
So
So that's
it's more like a landing page inside your email.
exactly. And for example, a better example would be like for this workflow, when you say, hey, it has crossed 100K, and you want to give a full snapshot of the opportunity. So you will build a Visual Force page, just mimicking all the contents of that opportunity page. And then you would be like showing a Salesforce page inside a email body. So that's how it will look like.
Wow.
So
So can I make the user enter data into that Visual Force page and then hit submit and populate the object from within that email body?
exactly. So that's what the Visual Force template, the Visual Force email template will come into play. So when you want to say you're building a survey form in Salesforce. So once the 100K opportunity is done, you are sending that email to the person who has worked for that opportunity, and then make it happen. So you send a survey to his manager telling that, hey, your subordinate has won a 100K opportunity, and how do you feel about him? Take a quick survey. So that's where you want to bring that data back into Salesforce, right? So that's where you will build a Visual Force template where you don't have to make that manager go outside Salesforce and do the survey form. You can build the inbuilt survey inside the email, and you will just basically build a Visual Force page and Apex code that will run the whole survey form, and you can expose that. Basically, you're exposing that page inside an email body. So that's what you will do.
That's pretty cool.
And the manager can start entering his comments and his ratings for that employee, and then click submit inside the email. His job is done. Sales manager would be having so much of on his plate, and he doesn't want to waste time going out of the browser and doing something on the survey form and coming back here, just to keep him on the track, not to lose what he's doing. He can just enter inside the email and then just click on submit, and the job is done. His review is done. So that's one example I could think right out of my head, but there are like a lot of use cases you can do with that email template.
That's pretty
So
cool.
for now, let's go with the HTML template. Can you click on the HTML?
Sure.
Yeah, click on next. So once you choose what type of template you're going to send, you would choose the folder, obviously. So you can have like segregated folders for email templates. That's purely on the admin purpose. This folder will not be exposed anywhere. So only admin can access these folders. And if you see unified public email templates, it's like it can be accessed by any user in the system who has admin permissions. But other folders are like the ownership based. So only the owner of that particular folder can access that folder. So let's keep it as unified public email. And the next one is the available for use, which means that either you can keep designing your email template and make it like available for use as off, so that until you complete your complete email draft, you don't have to expose it to others. So basically, this checkbox will make it available for use in the process builder and workflows. So give some name there. So this is basically giving a name for the template. And this is not the subject line again, to mention that this is not the subject line. So this is just a name for your email template to identify by the admin or any admin permission people. And the letterhead. So the letterhead, this letterhead is again kind of a template where you would have seen that it's literally a letterhead. So when the email goes out, you want to send it on a particular letterhead, right? So you own a company and you want to put a company logo there. You would set up your point of contact, contact informations there.
So you
So
can
that's where you
create
will do
your,
that.
yeah, sorry. You can create your letterheads here on the letterheads, and here you go. So on the letterheads, you can actually create these letterheads for your organization. New letterhead, big deal alert. See, so Salesforce has the option to create these letterheads. Don't worry, this is not going to be on the exam. This is for informational purpose. And once you have once you have a letterhead created, that will be available here.
You need to refresh that, cancel it, and then create a new one. Oh, you need to mark it as available for use.
Yeah.
So this is a good example. If you see, if it is not available for use, it will not show up anywhere to use that particular template. Either be it's an email template, or it's be a letterhead, or it could be some other things like workflow, process builders. So if you're not making it as available for use, it will not be available anywhere in your system.
That's a good point.
And there could be occasionally few questions based on this. So yeah, here you see the letterhead there. So there could be occasional questions based on this available for use checkbox. So it will not say the answer will not be like a concrete available for use. It would be like, hey, they created a template and they couldn't see the template. What could be the issue? And it could be like the template is not made available for the users. So it will not say the correct exact keyword that available for use. So it will be like it is not made available for the users, or it's not made available for any of the group of people. So whatever is relevant to this particular thing, so you can mark that as a right answer. But before going to that point, before you decide this available for use, you have to think in other perspectives as well. So this is where like multiple perspectives will come in place, where this could be into a different folder where you cannot access that. So check the answers. It's which one will be the more closest answer to your problem. So that would be the right answer. So don't go with the first answer you see on the options that seems right. So there could be multiple right answers, and you have to choose like the best options that would go well with this scenario.
Mhm. Then email
And
fields.
yeah, so this is like how would you choose like what type of format you want to have. So let's choose free form letter. And then next is encoding. So keep it as it is for now. The others are like this. This is more on the encoding part of the email when you want to have like a stronger security. So that should be defined by the organization, like your business. If the business is specific about like, hey, I want to encode in a Japanese format, then you would go with that type of encoding, or else just keep it to the basic one.
Okay.
So here's how it will look. And if you see the top header, that's a letterhead which we defined. So we didn't define anything inside the letterhead, so it's empty there. So you can put up any logo on the letterhead, and that will come up here. And you will define the subject line there, and you would say some content over there. Click here to enter the content. Just put in some text.
Okay.
Come down. And so here is another good thing about the email templates. So please approve the deal. So what deal are you going to approve?
Yeah.
So you will have if you see there in the section there is available merge fields. So that will show up all the object fields. So if you see the list, it's a very big list, and each field it's like it's representing an object. So you can choose opportunity field, you can choose any fields, but remember that when you create an email alert, these merge fields should align with the email alerts object. So I will show you where you will define the object, but whenever you define the object in email alert, that should align with whatever fields you are using in here. So if you're using opportunity fields here, your email alert should be based on the opportunity object. It should not be non-different object. Then the merge fields cannot come up. So once you choose a field, it will show up the syntax to copy paste it. So you will just copy that syntax and paste it here. That's it. So please approve. Opportunity.name will bring up the opportunity name there. And so this is like a preview. So when the real email goes out to the email box, so it will show up the opportunity name there in place of that syntax.
Oh, the amount is here also.
Yeah, all the fields will be there, including your custom fields, any other fields you have created.
Please approve for amount. Okay. What else?
So you will have a footer. So that is also coming from your template. So go click on next. So since I told you earlier, there was like four types of templates, right? So text template, HTML template, and custom and visual force. So text template will have just a text box, something like this. So HTML is like a hybrid of text template. So you can customize as a HTML format, and also you can have a text template. So why do we want this text only in HTML? That's a good question,
Yeah.
and the answer is for example, you're working in a federal agency, so there could be a lot of restrictions on your emails. So they have like very strict spam filters, and there could be certain email exchange functions that will reduce all the HTML content, that will eliminate all the HTML content, and it will just throw you only the text value whichever is coming from the outside emails. So that's where when people receive this email, if their organization email box is not supporting HTML content, so how do they see the content? So you have designed everything in the HTML, and if that HTML content is filtered out, nothing is there on the email template. Your email template will be empty. So not to give an embarrassing situation there. So the HTML template has two combinations. You can enter the HTML content and also the text content, so that if the HTML content is filtered out, this text content will show up, so that you don't miss any message being communicated. So you can just click on copy from HTML version. So that will copy the whole text content from the HTML version and just paste it here, so that you at least have the text content. And the merge fields will always work with both HTML text format. It's just the styling will not work. So if you decorate your email body with fancy UI things, that's whole content. If that whole content is blocked, your whole email template will not work. So that's where this. So when it detects that there is a filtering happening in the HTML content, this email template will automatically push in this email body, text body, into the email, and at least the users who are getting the emails will at least see this content rather than the blocking the whole content of the email.
Yeah, that was a good explanation on the usefulness of this. Because if you're ever going
Exactly.
into email marketing or marketing automation in Salesforce or anywhere, you definitely want to use the text version with your um, beautifully designed HTML email template.
Right. So when you do marketing, there could be a lot of spam filters filtering out your message before it delivers that to your inbox. So if it is filtered out in the spam, even so, sometimes people don't want to click the email on the spam folder. So what they will do is they'll just view the content of the email and then leave it as it is. So at least to view the content of the email inside the spam folder, anything that comes inside the spam folder will only project the text content. It will not. It will mask all the UI styling stuffs from the email.
Mhm. All right. So
So
now
now
we
we created that
have the
email template. So yeah, go ahead and create an email alert.
yes,
Hey, you may want to refresh this whole thing because we just created an email
it's true.
template.
That's true. That's true. News.
So also to remember, it's not exam point of view. Whenever you do something simultaneously on the next tab, if you are going to use that content or any component of that in the other tab, please refresh that page, whatever you're working on, because everything is cached in the UI side. So when I say cached, everything is brought into a temporary memory in your browser, and this page is not refreshing constantly. And so you will not see the changes immediately until you refresh the whole page or you come back again into the email alerts. It's not only for email alerts, it happens for everything inside Salesforce.
Yes, good point, especially with Lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go. So what I did was I clicked on this hour as a magnifying glass, and I saved my emails in the unified public email template folder. Sometimes this has happened to me before. I wonder where it is. It's either in another folder or I haven't made it available for use. So I made mine available for use. So it's here. I select it. I have a bunch of recipient types. So you can send this to a
So,
subgroup of people or to a particular user. So
right.
what we're going to do is we're going to inform only the CEO. We don't want all these people to know about the big deal. So I select user and I select the CEO. Um,
And can you again click that drop down? Let me explain few things there. So what are all the recipients you can use? So this is basically a recipient type. So recipient type means you are defining who is the recipient of this email. So if you see in that drop down, you would see only few type of users. So if you closely look at it, you're seeing account owner, case team, and you're seeing email field. So these are all something related to that opportunity. So you have chosen the object as opportunity in this email alert. So it is bringing up all the related stuff. So opportunities linked to an account. opportunity is linked to a case, so it brings up the related email fields over there. So account owner is a user in the system, so he can have an email ID, right, already in the system. So you can send it to an account owner. His team also will have an email ID in the system, so you can send it to that. Creator is basically the whoever has created this opportunity. And the email field which you see here, before going into the customer portal, we'll explain the other things. So the email field is the exact field on the opportunity. If the opportunity is having an email field, so that email field, whatever the email is stored in that field, so that will be the recipient. And owner is obviously the opportunity's owner. If it is a different object, it's going to be the same. Like owner would be the whatever the object you have selected, the owner of that record, and email is email field of that record. And customer portal users are like, when you launch a customer portal like a site, when you launch a site from the Salesforce, and you won't have a predefined users for those site, so you would be having all those users as a portal users.
Mhm.
And we'll come back to that concepts later, but you just assume that if these are portal users are not exactly Salesforce user, they are like masked under a temporary profile, and you'd have a set of users, just the name and the email addresses, and they won't be the proper Salesforce login users. And if you see, you can choose a role as well, role and subordinates, and also the users, and you can also send it to a public group. So these are like the concepts which we already discussed, like if you want to send it to a public group, it will go to everyone in the group. And role is like goes to every role of that particular role, whatever it is defined. And the related contact is just contact, just the contact object. So it's just since it is related to this opportunity, it's called as related contact.
Mhm.
And if the contact is not associated at all, then the related contact will not come up on this list. Same goes with the user. If there is a user object lookup, if there is no user lookup object on that opportunity, the related user will not come up. And user is like a standalone user, so it need not be associated to an opportunity. You can send to any users inside Salesforce.
Got it.
So these are the options, and you once you choose that, you will choose the available recipients so for each category.
You can add more than one, but right now
Yeah,
you can add the CEO.
and this recipient goes into the to field in your email.
And this is for test. I use this a lot for testing purposes. I have to see how the email looks. I can add my own personal email, and I can check to see how the template looks. Um, I, I I don't know if there's any other use to that besides, or maybe is this like a carbon copy for anyone else in the
So
organization?
yeah, so that's a CC address, and whatever the email you send. So for example, so for bigger deals, something like 100K or something, you would want to notify all your investors. So the investors need not be on your Salesforce organization. So they can be outside users. They don't have to use a Salesforce. So how do you notify to them? So you will have their email addresses. Say there are like 5 investors in your company, and you want to notify all these investors, hey, there's a deal coming up for 100K, and they, if they want to get notified like a carbon copy, so you can add their email addresses here.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good use case.
Yeah. So that's how we create email alert. And once you created the email alert, you will add it here. So you can also directly add an email alert from here under workflow actions, or also you can already keep it created in your system and just select the existing action. Click on the select existing action. Yeah, so this is where you would already define all those email alert or field update, whatever it is, and then you can select it from there. Or you might be using it for some other workflows and you want to reuse that action, that also can be done here. So you would be having a list of all the actions which you have created for your organization, and you can select from that list.
Great.
All
Should
right.
should
So
we leave process builder for for out for today, or should we do it? Because we are 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep it for the next session then.
Okay. So I want to cover what a uh, add time trigger. Let's. Do you want to do that today?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, it's not take much time, right?
Yes.
We still have 10 minutes.
So what this does is you can set a time trigger for this to happen after a certain number of days or before a certain number of days. Um, you can say trigger on the close date of the opportunity, like 30 days before the close date or 30 days after the close date. So we definitely want to make it before, or you can even register. Make it hours, right? You can be very specific for depending on how urgent the case is or the deal is. You can set it to hours instead of days. So that's something that I wanted to bring up. So all this that you just saw, you'll be able to do in Process Builder, which we would like to cover in the next session. Um, let's see what else I can. Well, I didn't have this
So,
option before under time-based actions. Yeah. So now that
so
go ahead.
quick update here. Quick update here. So what happens here is the immediate, if you see here, there are two sections, immediate workflow actions and time-dependent workflow actions. So that could be questions around this, like if you set up a time-dependent workflow actions, which one gets triggered first? And there could be scenarios based on this to understanding these two concepts. So the immediate workflow action, what happens is once the workflow is triggered, this immediate workflow action happens. And once that actions are executed, this time dependent workflow will kick in and it will keep your process queued in a separate queue. And it's not like a queue in Salesforce. It's like, just imagine a practical queue. You're standing in a queue for getting something in the store. So it's like that. So it will keep that action scheduled and waiting for execution. Say if you mention it as like 30 days before the opportunity close date, it will record the opportunity close date and then it will wait for the 30-day mark before that opportunity close date. And if once the day arrives, I mean, like once the day started at 12 o'clock or whatever the time we mentioned, it will fire that particular email alert or whatever the workflow action we defined here. So you can completely have a different set of actions apart from immediate action. Say on immediate action, you can do a field update and you send the email only before 30 days. So that is also can be a feasible scenario where you have first email alert goes at the immediate workflow action, and before the 30 days you send out the second reminder of the update, like a 100k deal was closed on so and so date and we have already sent out an email, and this is a second emailer. So you can compose a second reminder email template and add it to an email alert and bring that email alert inside this time dependent action.
Yeah. Or I mean, another use case would be once the opportunity is closed, you can send a time-dependent workflow to your service team to follow up with the customer to make sure they're happy with the service or the product. Yeah, so you can remind your service team to follow up with the customer just to check in with the customer. Okay. I'm gonna open the floor for Q&A for the last 5 minutes, so we can answer some of your questions. How are we doing? Like, what else would you like to learn? Like, what did you like about today's session?
Oh, so this is Albert. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I thought the session was really good. I guess one question I was wondering on the workflows. So for workflows, you can update if it's a child object, you can update a field on the parent object, but not vice versa. Is that correct? So if it's like an account, can you update a contact field through a workflow?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. I think the question is like about can you update child object from the parent?
That's right. You're correct.
Yeah. So that's a limitation in workflow, and that's where the process builder would be the right choice for that because workflow can always update child from the parent from the child, not the vice versa. So
Okay.
you always update account based on the contacts field triggering.
Okay.
So some of the fields in contact satisfies your criteria and you want your parent to be updated, like account to be updated. That's where you will choose workflow. You can choose process builder for the same reason, but yeah, if you want to see the difference between workflow and process builder, that's where process builder can do contact update based on account, but workflow cannot do that.
That's right. I misunderstood you, Albert. So when you update, for example, the address on the contact, you can set a field update trigger to update the address on the account from the contact.
Oh, via the workflow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
And one more add-on to that is that you can do only for master-child relationships. You cannot do for lookup relationships. Say, for example, let's assume account and contact doesn't have relationship at all by default. So if you had created a lookup from contact to account, so that becomes a lookup relationship. That necessarily doesn't mean that account is the parent of contact. It's just a relationship between account and contact. So in that case, workflow cannot be used to update the account.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it can have the cross object can happen only when there is a master child relationship.
Okay. Thank you.
So Danesha says it helps to see us go through the steps. So that is why I wanted to use the whole day, the whole session, or maybe half of next session just for process builder, because we want to go through the steps. It's a very complex tool, and it wouldn't do justice for us to try and fit that into a 10-minute session.
Exactly. So that's the reason we wanted to have a demo for every feature what we are explaining, and just reading out what a process builder will do, workflow will do. That you can get it from the YouTube videos and the documents. But to see in action and that level of understanding is totally different from what you read from books.
Yeah.
And I would like to thank Danisha for the feedback, honest feedback she gave on the chatter. Yeah, really sorry about that hiccups last time, Danisha. I think this time you would made a little bit of justice on that, and going forward, we are going to make it more structured way of doing this. Thanks for that feedback. Any questions, guys?
Great.
All right, I think we are hitting the 11 o'clock mark. So let's wrap up the session for today. So Gavin, you have anything for the last?
Well, how many of you guys are available on the 16th? Because if we don't have much of attendance, we may call it off. Let's see. Okay, Albert's available. Tanisha's available. All right. So in that case, I might make myself. Oh, Henry's available too. So in that case, I might make myself available as well for the process builder session next Saturday. Are you available, Guha?
Yeah, sure, I can be available.
Great. All right, guys. Then let's connect again next week. Thank you for all your feedback. Continue to bring questions for the next session. It's going to be very interactive, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to interact with us as we go through the example in Process Builder. And yeah, have a wonderful
Yeah.
weekend, and it's a
Okay,
pleasure.
and before closing, so these sessions are getting recorded. We are putting on YouTube, and keep this content private within our group. Please do not share it. The reason we are telling is we are setting up a study group, and we don't want to dilute the purpose of the study group. If everyone is going to get this premium content, and then there's no point of setting up a group. We can just put up YouTube videos generally on the platform and then publish it everywhere, right? We want to make a difference. We want to give a special attention to the group of people who are investing their time in this group and joining these sessions, and we want to make justice for that people who are really taking time out on their Saturdays. So that's the only intent for keeping it private. So it's not about giving a boast off or something like that. It's just want to make people who are joining this session, they want to feel special about this session.
Yeah.
That's the only pure purpose of it. All right, then. So let's reconvene again next week, Saturday.
All right, guys.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you.